everyone. Okay, so I am here in Sicily right now with a couple of my friends, JD and Alexandra, and they're here to talk with me about a recent video I did walking through the streets of Paris. And I know a lot of people were really angry about that video because they feel it was a misrepresentation of what is happening there, that I just went down one street, that I'm kind of trying to lie and give people a skewed perception of what is going on. So I brought JD, who has lived in France for over 3 years now.
Yes.
And Alexandra, who has lived in France for her whole life, and her family is from France. She's French herself. Just to ask them how they feel about that video and whether they think it's an accurate representation of the changing face of France. So, Alexandra, would you say that this is just one neighborhood like that, or am I seeing it wrong? Because I just walked outside my Airbnb and I thought that was crazy. But
it's quite normal scene in France, and in most neighborhoods it's pretty usual, and particularly in Paris, where we can see even more immigration each year.
So that isn't just one street like that. There are lots of streets in Paris.
Yeah.
And is that like the worst you will see? The one I went down? No, there's much worse.
No, you were in the center of Paris. If you go in the suburbs, it's worse.
Wow. So what are some of the neighborhoods that would be even worse than this street that I was on?
There is a whole region that are like this. If you go in the north of Paris, in Seine-Saint-Denis, or in other departments around Paris, you have places like in Corbeil-Essonnes, Aulnay-sous-Bois, Sarcelles, which are actually really worse. And that's not just people walking the street. There is a riot very, very often with the police, and it's nearly sometimes a state of war there. So your video, you show just an average street in Paris. Of course, not every street are like this, especially the ones that are filmed, that you can see on TV, and the one that the tourist sees. But the one you were is just an average street in Paris. But there is worse.
Now, another thing I was accused of doing is people are saying these people are assimilated, Lauren. Just because they don't look like they are ethnically French doesn't mean they don't speak French and don't love the culture and are a part of the culture. Are the people in this neighborhood a part of the French culture?
In fact, no. In France, we have a lot of immigration, and this creates communitarism. So people, they group by communities, and we are all separate. And we can see it in towns. For example, you have now you have neighborhoods of European people and neighborhoods of African people, and it's getting even worse.
Do they speak different languages as well?
Yeah, often they speak their own languages from their country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not only about the language, because it's true, some of them are part of the third generation, some of them the fourth generation. So most of them speak French, and sometimes they speak French in the street. But in some neighborhood where French is spoken, it's nearly impossible to find wine or pork or non-halal food. It means that these neighborhoods are maybe they speak French as they could speak English if they were in England, but it's not European anymore.
Right. So it's not just the language, but the culture is completely different.
They have their own culture.
Right. And would you feel safe walking into these neighborhoods?
No, in some places nobody can go.
And that's just in one of these kind of, people call them no-go zones.
Yeah.
You call them that there too?
And no-go zone, it doesn't mean that the police can never go there. It means that if the police want to go there, they have to go there with 100 policemen. So, okay, they can go, but under certain circumstances. You won't have a police car patrolling like they usually do in other neighborhoods.
Yeah.
If they want to go there, they must be an army, you see. So if we speak about a girl looking like a Western girl, of course she cannot go there.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've grown up in France your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Has it changed from when you were a kid much, or has this always been a problem?
I guess it's getting worse, but I've grown up with this situation. For example, when I was younger, I don't know, maybe 12, I learned to protect myself. For example, I couldn't go to my house late
At night?
at night, and I pay attention of my clothes and the way I act in public and in the transport, for example, because in fact everything is dangerous.
But you're saying it's getting worse now. So like if you walked down that same street I was on in Paris 20 years ago, would it be the same or very different from now?
Very different, I guess.
Very different.
But already 20 years ago there was place like that. If you go in the 18th arrondissement in Paris, Barbès, it was already quite the same. But these places have get more numerous and bigger. That's
right.
But the situation of immigration started in the 60s in France.
Right.
And you had, I guess, less communitarism, so it was maybe different because you had maybe a lot of immigrants, but not this way of living.
They would assimilate before.
Or they were more discreet, and there was less family because in the late 60s and beginning of the 70s, it was only workers who came to France for work. And then when the work was not available anymore, the French state decided, instead of expelling them back to their countries, to bring them family here. And in French it's called the regroupement familial, so the familial gathering. And it started in 76. And that's why now when a guy comes in France and has a legal status, he can bring all his family.
Oh, wow.
That's why it exploded in the middle of the 70s.
That's crazy. Now, where do you think this is headed in like 50 years from now? How do you see France 50 years from now?
Je dis, tu me traduis?
Elle te demande comment tu penses que la France sera dans 15 ans.
I have no idea if we continue that way. I don't know. Maybe European people should go to the suburbs. Encore.
Even further in the suburb, you know, because now the French and the European, they avoid the suburbs and city center, which is too expensive, and the suburb because they are too dangerous and there's
so
too much immigration, and they go
to the countryside.
Behind the suburb.
Countryside.
Yeah, and
but near the city.
It's called La France périphérique in French. So it means that there is a whole population which is near the cities, but not in the cities, and some people have to live, for example, I don't know, maybe 1 hour away from their job because it's more.
They have culture and community out there.
Yeah, and they can live
without the fear and with the French surrounding.
So you think kind of the French people and the French culture will keep pushing further away from the cities?
Yeah.
Maybe.
You have really in the 80s in the suburbs you had it was very multicultural. So multiculturalism existed at that time, but now it completely exploded. Everyone regroup around his own identity, and you have African neighborhoods, you have Northern African neighborhoods, and you have French neighborhoods, and people are. That's not the state who is organizing that; it's the people themselves.
Right. So it's not multiculturalism in the way liberals would explain, where everyone's holding hands and singing Kumbaya. It's
not
segregation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Created by the people themselves.
Wow, that's crazy.
But also between immigration, there is different kind of immigration, and they don't want to live together. You know.
Interesting. All right. Anyways, JD, Alexandra, thank you so much for joining me to talk about this. I think it's so important that people see that this isn't just me going down one street and showing you, oh my goodness, look, dark faces. No, this is about culture. This is about the changing language and entire country. You guys are losing the French identity, and that is something that is much deeper than just skin color and superficial stuff like that, and it matters. And anyways, I just wanted to make sure that that story got out there and there was an explanation to that video of me walking down the street. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll be back with an update soon, and I'll see you next time.